The Mexican Grand Prix weekend has barely begun, yet the tension inside McLaren's garage is already palpable. Max Verstappen's pace in Friday practice sent shockwaves through the paddock as the reigning four-time champion reminded everyone that despite being 40 points behind Oscar Piastri in the standings, he's far from finished. Verstappen's lap, just 0.153 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, looked effortless, calculated, and devastatingly fast. Meanwhile, McLaren, the team that's been leading the championship charge in recent months, suddenly looked uncertain. Lando Norris found himself in fourth, struggling to find balance, while Piastri was buried in 12th. For a team known for their precision, McLaren's inconsistency in Mexico is more than a minor hiccup, it's a warning sign. And as whispers of internal pressure grow louder, the question emerges: has McLaren reached its limit just as Verstappen and Red Bull find their rhythm again? Before we unpack this growing drama and what it could mean for the championship fight, don't forget to subscribe, because what's happening this weekend might redefine the 2025 Formula One season. Max Verstappen's dominance in Mexico City wasn't a surprise, but the consequences of his speed sent shockwaves through McLaren. The Dutchman's Friday performance, topping the timesheets ahead of Charles Leclerc by just 0.153 seconds, was more than just a strong lap, it was a statement. After clawing back 40 points in the standings with 3 wins and a second place in the last 4 races, Verstappen is beginning to look like a man on a mission. And in contrast, McLaren's rhythm suddenly looks fragile. Lando Norris, who's been McLaren's steady hand in recent races, found himself struggling with balance issues and inconsistency throughout the practice sessions. His words after FP2 painted a clear picture. Balance is a bit all over the place. We're already a little bit behind. Coming from a driver known for extracting the maximum on Fridays, that admission hints at deeper trouble. Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, was down in 12th, a disappointing result for a driver leading the championship. Since his victory in Zandvoort, Piastri's performances have fluctuated, and Mexico seems to have added another difficult chapter. His own summary was blunt: "My lap was average." Behind the scenes, whispers within the paddock suggest that McLaren's internal environment is becoming tense. Balancing 2 potential title contenders is never easy, especially when both believe they can be world champion. Piastri's slight lead over Norris might not seem like much, but it puts team principal Andrea Stella in a tight spot. Every pit call, every setup decision, every strategic preference is now seen through a political lens. For a team that thrives on unity, even small internal friction can be damaging, particularly when Max Verstappen is lurking, waiting to exploit any weakness. But Verstappen's own assessment of the session added another layer of intrigue. Despite leading the charts, he described his long-run performance as pretty bad. The Dutchman complained about a lack of grip and tire degradation during his race simulation, saying, "You can be fast over 1 lap, but if you have 0 pace in the race, it's going to be very tough." It's a rare admission from the reigning champion, but also a warning. Red Bull are testing the limits of their new upgrades, including a revised floor that seems to have improved short-run pace, but at the expense of tire longevity. The team's engineers are now facing a delicate balancing act, maintaining that qualifying edge without sacrificing the car's stability over longer stints. Interestingly, McLaren might not be as far behind as their single lap time suggests. Several rivals noticed that Norris's long-run pace looked exceptional. Ferrari's engineer Brian Bosey even told Charles Leclerc over the radio that Norris looked very fast on the soft tire. Mercedes' George Russell confirmed it later, saying, "Lando looked very quick on his long run, which has obviously been the theme lately." However, McLaren's data may be slightly misleading. While Red Bull and Ferrari completed their race simulations on the more durable medium tire, McLaren opted for the soft compound faster initially, but more fragile over distance. The question now is whether McLaren can turn that short-term speed into sustainable race pace once Sunday comes. Technically, Mexico City presents one of the toughest challenges on the F1 calendar. The thin air at high altitude affects everything from engine cooling to tire management. Cars lose downforce efficiency, and overheating becomes a nightmare. This environment tends to expose weaknesses in setup and reliability. Red Bull's long-run issues may be linked to overheating tires and reduced airflow efficiency, while McLaren's struggles seem more tied to unpredictable balance shifts between high and low-speed corners. Meanwhile, the psychological battle intensifies. Verstappen's confidence, even when he's dissatisfied, is his greatest weapon. He knows he doesn't need to dominate every session, just the right ones. And that calm, calculated approach contrasts sharply with McLaren's visible unease. Norris's comments suggest self-doubt creeping in, while Piastri's quiet frustration hints at mounting pressure. Both drivers are exceptionally talented, but this championship fight is no longer about talent alone. It's about composure under fire. Ferrari and Mercedes, meanwhile, are quietly waiting for chaos to strike. Leclerc's performance, just a fraction behind Verstappen, suggests Ferrari could pounce if either Red Bull or McLaren stumble. Hamilton and Russell were both competitive, and their race pace looked consistent. Russell noted that it'll be close between the top 8 cars, implying that strategy and tire life could decide everything. So, what's really at stake here for McLaren? Mexico might determine whether they can keep Red Bull at bay in this title race. A poor qualifying could put both drivers in traffic disastrous at a circuit where overheating brakes and tires are constant threats. For Verstappen, this weekend is about more than points. It's about momentum. If he wins here, the psychological blow to McLaren could be enormous, perhaps enough to tilt the entire season in his favor. But the irony of this story lies in its duality. Verstappen, despite looking dominant, admits to fundamental flaws in his car.